Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something that really touches almost everyone, especially if you're navigating the world in English, public speaking anxiety.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We've gathered, well, quite a bit of information that digs into why this fear feels so powerful.
And more importantly, gives us concrete ways to, take control.
Exactly. Our mission is pretty straightforward. Pull out the most useful, actionable strategies to help you, our listener, become a more confident, more comfortable English speaker whenever you're talking to others.
Absolutely. Public speaking anxiety isn't just like a minor thing for me. It's a huge barrier.
Yeah.
And as English learners, you often face that extra layer of concern.
Right.
We'll be looking at our sources to really understand those specific anxieties and, crucially, equip you with effective tools to overcome them.
Think about those moments, and you might know this feeling really well, that sudden tightness in your chest.
Yeah.
Your mouth feeling like cotton. Maybe your hands are actually shaking a bit.
Uh-huh. Without you telling them to.
Right. These are those classic signals of public speaking nerves. And the first key thing here is that these feelings, incredibly common.
So common.
This isn't some kind of language failing. Even really articulate native speakers deal with this.
That's such a vital point. Our sources actually show that public speaking often ranks as a greater fear than things we think are naturally scary, like heights, spiders, or even, and this is surprising, death.
Wow.
Recognizing this is just a shared human thing, not some personal flaw.
Yeah.
That's really the first step to managing it.
It really puts the intensity into perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
And for you as English learners, there are these added layers, right? That fear of your mind just going blank on a key word, of mispronouncing something and maybe changing the meaning entirely. That just general feeling awkward.
Yeah, or worrying that people are judging your accent or your grammar.
Exactly. And then that sort of ultimate fear of just freezing, completely unable to say anything. It can feel overwhelming.
It's a huge hurdle, and our sources really emphasize how valid and common these anxieties are for people communicating in a second language.
That concern about not being understood.
Or not representing your thoughts accurately,
Yeah.
that can be intense.
But here's the really empowering truth. This is a challenge you absolutely can overcome.
Definitely.
It's not about becoming some, flawless speaking robot. It's about understanding what's going on and committing to consistent effort. Perfection, not the goal here.
No.
Progress and actually connecting with people, that's what we're aiming for.
Precisely. And it's so important for you, the listener, to see that your unique voice, your accent, your perspective, these aren't weaknesses.
No.
They can actually be real strengths. Your different way of seeing things is valuable. It adds something.
Exactly. Because what often happens when this fear takes over is that, English learners start to avoid speaking situations.
Staying quiet.
You might stay silent in class, even if you know the answer. You might avoid speaking up at work. And over time, this just leads to missed chances and, honestly, a lot of frustration.
And our sources are really clear on this. Speaking is a skill.
Just like anything else.
Just like anything else.
Yeah.
It needs practice, consistent development. Nobody starts out perfect in any language.
True.
Improvement comes through effort and maybe being willing to step just a little outside that comfort zone.
And that's our commitment to you today. We're not offering a magic wand.
No quick fix.
But practical, real advice in clear, simple English, no matter what your current level is. We'll bust some common myths.
Yeah.
Look at mindset, body language, and how to grow bit by bit.
We especially want to encourage you, if you're just starting out with English or maybe you're intermediate,
Yeah.
building that confidence early, it's so beneficial, opens up so many doors for connection and growth.
So if you're listening now and maybe feeling that familiar knot in your stomach just thinking about speaking English in public,
Take a breath.
yeah, take a deep breath with us. You are definitely not alone. Millions of people feel this, and they've found ways to move past it. And you absolutely can too.
So let's start by understanding the why. Why does this happen? Our sources explain it as basically performance anxiety.
Right.
That worry about how you'll come across when you're doing something in front of others.
Yeah.
Fear of judgment, making mistakes, being the center of attention.
It's almost like your body's alarm system just goes haywire, right?
Totally.
Our sources list some really common physical signs. Your heart starts pounding.
Racing heart, yeah. Dry mouth.
Sweaty palms, shaky hands, maybe your breathing gets really shallow and fast.
Mm-hmm. Chest tightness. Some people even feel dizzy or nauseous.
And the dreaded mind blank.
Yeah.
Or your voice starts shaking.
And it's not just physical. Mentally, you worry about forgetting what you wanted to say,
Mixing up words.
doubting your grammar, your vocabulary, even stuff you know really well.
It's surprisingly common. Our sources say up to, 77% of people feel some anxiety about public speaking?
Yeah, it's huge. It really is up there with those deep, primal fears.
What's really interesting is the evolutionary psychology angle our sources bring up.
Right, the idea that back in tribal times, being accepted by the group was literally survival.
Rejection meant danger.
Exactly. So that ancient fear of being kicked out, of not belonging, it's still kind of wired in us. When you stand up in front of a group, your amygdala, the brain's fear center can just light up.
It's like our brains haven't fully updated, you know? It's a slightly imperfect presentation isn't really life or death.
Huh, right. But that basic fear of social disapproval, still very much there.
And today, it's not just about rejection, but judgment on how we look, sound, what we say.
Which gets amplified for language learners, right? Worrying about pronunciation, grammar being picked apart.
And that fear of making mistakes seems huge. We all want to be accepted, respected.
And making a mistake in English can feel like it just undermines that completely.
Our sources also mention how past bad experiences can stick with you.
Oh, yeah. If you had one awkward public speaking moment in English, that memory can pop up and make current anxiety even worse.
And then there's the pressure, right? From school, work, even ourselves that need to be perfect.
Definitely. And, social media doesn't help showing these seemingly flawless speakers all the time.
Sets an impossible standard.
It can make your own anxieties feel even bigger by comparison.
But the key thing here is that this fear, even though it feels intense, it is natural.
It can even mean you care, right? You want to do well.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to control you.
Okay, so let's zoom in specifically on how this affects you as an English learner. Our sources explain that when anxiety hits, it kicks your brain into survival mode.
Fight or flight.
Right. And unfortunately, that can really block access to the language parts of your brain.
It's like your internal dictionary just slams shut. Even if you know the words, the grammar.
In that moment, they feel gone, completely inaccessible.
And that shows up as like a drop in fluency, more hesitation, broken sentences.
Even when you know the stuff. It's that super frustrating feeling of having ideas, but just not being able to get them out smoothly.
And it's not just the words, is it? Anxiety messes with your pronunciation, rhythm, body language, too.
Totally. You might talk too fast or too slow or too quietly. You might avoid eye contact without even realizing it.
Our sources talk about this negative cycle.
Yeah, you get nervous, maybe make a mistake or feel awkward.
Which makes you more nervous.
And then you just want to avoid speaking next time. It reinforces itself.
And that thing about vocabulary just disappearing, even simple words, why does that happen under pressure, do the sources say?
Well, yeah, basically that fight or flight response prioritizes immediate survival stuff over complex things like language recall. Your brain's just trying to cope.
Okay.
As for quick fixes in the moment, they suggest things like taking that deep breath to calm down, maybe trying to picture the word or something related.
Why just use a different word?
Exactly. Paraphrase, find another way to say it.
That makes sense. And grammar can slip too, right? Even basic stuff, you know.
Absolutely. It's not about your knowledge. It's the cognitive load. Your brain's juggling the language and the fear.
There's also this idea of over-monitoring, they mentioned.
Well, yeah, like becoming hyper-aware of every single word, editing yourself constantly as you speak.
Which makes you sound slow, hesitant, really unnatural.
And all of this just chips away at your confidence, right? Feeling like you don't sound smart or capable.
It's disheartening and leads to that avoidance we talked about. The gap grows between what you can do in English and what you feel comfortable doing publicly.
And it's so important to remember This anxiety can hide your real abilities.
People might think you're quiet because you don't know, not because you're anxious.
Exactly. But the good news, and our sources stress this, is that this cycle can be broken. Anxiety feels powerful, but you can manage it with the right strategies and effort.
Okay, so let's start breaking it down by tackling some common beliefs. Our sources point out a few myths about public speaking that can really hold you back, especially as an English learner. Myth 1. You have to be naturally confident.
Ah, yes, the born speaker myth. Our sources completely debunk this.
Right.
Confidence isn't something you're just born with. It's a skill you build up through experience, through practice.
Like learning an instrument. Some might have a knack, but everyone needs to practice.
Exactly. The sources use a great analogy. Confidence is like a muscle.
The more you use it.
The stronger it gets. So the key isn't waiting till you feel 100% confident. It's having the courage to speak even when you're feeling a bit shaky.
You wouldn't expect to lift heavy weights on day one, right?
No. Same with speaking. Each little try builds that speaking muscle.
Okay, myth number 2. Mistakes mean failure. This one feels particularly tough for language learners.
Oh, definitely. That feeling that one slip up means the whole thing's a disaster. But our sources are really firm on this. Mistakes are natural. They're a valuable part of learning and communicating.
Even native speakers make mistakes all the time.
All the time. Little stumbles, filler words, stuff that usually goes totally unnoticed.
It's true. You say, in your first language, nobody bats an eye.
And our sources say mistakes actually show you're trying. You're putting yourself out there. There are chances to learn. Connection and getting your message across are way more important than perfect grammar.
Okay, myth 3. People are judging your English. This feels so real in the moment.
It really does. That feeling that everyone's listening just to pick apart your accent or grammar. But, the sources point out that most people, they're focused on understanding your message.
What you're actually saying.
Yeah. Not nitpicking your language skills.
It helps to flip it, right? When someone speaks your native language with an accent, are you usually judging their grammar?
Exactly. Or are you just trying to understand them? Our sources suggest that fear of judgment often comes more from our own inner critic.
That harsh voice in our head.
Right. Than from what other people are actually thinking. And honestly, speaking publicly in a second language is often seen as pretty impressive. Courageous.
Plus, your accent is part of who you are.
It is. And audiences are usually supportive. They want you to do well.
Okay, last myth for now. If I'm nervous, it means I shouldn't speak. This one stops people from even trying.
Yeah, the feeling that nerves are like a big red stop sign, back away. But no, our sources say nervousness is totally normal, even for super experienced speakers. It doesn't mean you're not ready or capable.
It's like nerves before a big game, maybe, can sharpen your focus.
Exactly. You can reframe it as a sign that you care, you want it to go well. And acting despite the fear, that's where the growth happens. That's how you build real confidence.
So the big takeaway from busting these myths is public speaking, especially in another language, it's about being real, sharing your view.
Not about achieving some impossible perfection.
Right, which leads perfectly into shifting your mindset. Our sources really highlight how harmful it is to cling to that idea that you need perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect fluency.
It just sets you up for disappointment, doesn't it?
Totally. Because like we said, perfection is an illusion. Even native speakers aren't perfect.
Our sources offer a much healthier definition of fluency. Not zero errors, but speaking with relative ease, with flow, even with some imperfections.
That feels so much more achievable. Takes the pressure off being this flawless robot.
Exactly. It refocuses on just communicating. Our sources really push for adopting this mindset of, I'm getting better each time I speak.
Progress over perfection.
Yes. Actively focusing on those small steps forward, not some distant, perfect end state.
Because fluency doesn't just appear magically, right? It grows through using the language.
Which includes making mistakes and learning from them. That's how it works.
Communication is about connection, understanding, not just being grammatically correct all the time.
Absolutely. The sources have a great analogy. Think about how little kids learn to talk.
They just jump in, make tons of mistakes.
Right. They're not worried about perfect verb conjugation. They just use the language freely, and that's how they learn so fast.
So those little wins matter. Saying one more sentence than last time, asking one question.
Those are real steps forward.
Yeah.
And reframing mistakes as proof you're learning, proof you're growing. That's powerful.
It's about giving yourself permission not to sound like a native speaker right away. Valuing your own authentic voice.
Exactly. Progress means accepting where you are now and taking the next step, however small, and celebrating the effort.
And aiming for progress, not perfection, probably makes it easier to bounce back from a bad day or a mistake, right?
Definitely. It's not a catastrophe, just part of the process. And this progress mindset actually leads to better communication overall. You listen better, speak more clearly, connect more honestly.
So the core message is, stop waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect English level.
Yes, you just start. Our sources keep saying, every time you try to speak, even with fear, that is improvement. That's progress in action.
Okay, so we're working on shifting from perfection to progress. Now let's get really practical. Preparation. Our sources hammer home the link between prep and confidence.
You really do. Feeling unprepared, that just fuels anxiety, panic, uncertainty.
But having a plan gives you that sense of control, like a safety net.
Exactly. A safety net for when the nerves hit.
So where do we start with prep? The sources talk about creating an outline.
Yeah, think of it as your roadmap. Doesn't have to be super detailed, just break it down. Intro, main points, conclusion. And use short phrases or bullet points, not full sentences.
Keep it simple, right? So you don't sound like you're reading. What's a good basic structure?
Well, the classic structure works well. Intro, grab attention, say your topic, why it matters to them, body, your main points, backed up with stories, examples, facts, conclusion. Sum it up, leave a lasting thought.
Simple, clear, effective. Helps the audience follow, helps you stay on track.
Exactly. Less confusion, less anxiety for you.
Okay, what about cue cards? The sources mention using those strategically.
Think of them as little reminder notes, just keywords or short phrases.
Not a full script.
No, definitely not. They just help you stay on track without sounding robotic. Really useful for longer talks or when you know you'll be under pressure.
So outline for structure, cue cards for reminders. What about storytelling? Sources say that's powerful.
Hugely powerful. Stories are just more memorable, right? And often easier to tell than just listing facts.
Yeah.
They suggest a basic structure. Beginning, set the scene, who, where, what. Middle, introduce a challenge or change. And show the result, the lesson learned.
Simple framework. You could structure your whole talk that way or just weave in little stories to illustrate points.
Exactly. Like, maybe tell a quick story about your own experience practicing public speaking.
Makes it relatable. Okay, so outline, maybe cue cards, story ideas, then comes practice. And the sources say, out loud, practice is key.
Absolutely crucial. Not just thinking it through in your head, you need to actually say the words.
They suggest practicing in front of a mirror. Why?
It makes you aware of your body language. Are you slouching, fidgeting, making eye contact with yourself, smiling? Helps you catch those nonverbal habits.
See yourself as others might see you. They also recommend recording yourself. A bit scary, maybe.
Can be, but so valuable. Audio or video, you can check your pace, clarity, filler words, flow, and you can see your progress over time.
Like getting objective feedback. And they stress practicing consistently, right? Going start to finish, even if you mess up.
Yes. Get comfortable with the flow. Practice recovering from stumbles, and try to mimic the real situation.
Stand up if you'll be standing, use your notes, speak at full volume.
Imagine the audience. The closer practice is to reality, the better prepared you'll feel.
They also suggest practicing with someone else.
Yeah, ask a friend for feedback, not just on grammar, but on your message, clarity, delivery.
Good point. Get a listener's perspective, and starting small.
Definitely. Practice with one person before a group. Short talks before long ones. And finally, they mentioned mental prep, like visualization.
Picturing yourself doing well.
Exactly. Seeing yourself speaking confidently, clearly, it really helps.
So preparation isn't just about knowing your stuff. It's fundamental for reducing fear and building that confidence.
Absolutely. It gives you that foundation, that security, makes nerves much easier to handle.
Okay, so we've prepped our minds and our material. Now let's talk about the physical side. Our sources really stress using your body and breath to manage anxiety and communicate better.
They really do. We focus so much on the words, but how you breathe, your posture, gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, they're huge.
Huge for how the audience receives you and how you feel.
Exactly. Let's start with breathing. Nerves make us take shallow, fast chest breaths, right?
Yeah, which just makes the anxiety worse.
It's a vicious cycle. Anxiety, shallow breathing, brain thinks something's wrong, more anxiety, but you can break it.
How? The sources talk about deep belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing.
That's the one. It's a great calming technique. I want to walk through it.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Sit or stand straight. Hand on your belly, hand on your chest. Breathe in slowly through your nose, maybe for 4 seconds. Focus on your belly rising more than your chest. Hold it gently for, say, 2 seconds. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth, maybe 6 or 8 seconds. Feel your belly fall.
In through the nose, out through the mouth. Belly moves.
Exactly. Repeat that a few times before you speak. Really helps calm the nervous system.
Simple but powerful. And they say you can even use pauses and deep breaths during your speech.
Absolutely. Pauses aren't weakness. They show control. Give you a second to think, breathe, and they can emphasize your points.
Okay, breathing under control. What about body language? Your body's talking before you even open your mouth.
So true. Posture, gestures, face, eyes, they all send signals. And adopting confident body language can actually make you feel more confident.
So stand tall, shoulders relaxed but open.
Right. Avoid crossing arms or hunching. That open posture projects confidence.
And gestures.
Use natural hand movements to emphasize ideas. Don't keep your hands hidden or make really forced movements. Just let them help you express yourself.
Makes sense. Facial expressions. Show emotion, smile.
Yeah, let your face match your message. A genuine smile makes you seem approachable, confident.
And the big one, eye contact. Can be tough when you're nervous.
It can, but it's key for connection. If direct eye contact feels too intense at first, try looking just above people's heads or at their foreheads.
Creates a similar effect.
Yeah, without feeling quite so direct. And remember, the audience usually wants you to succeed. They respond well to confident body language.
The sources also mention using nervous energy through movement, like stepping forward.
Yeah, channel it purposefully. Move during transitions. Step forward for emphasis. And again, pauses, silence can be powerful. Lets people think, adds weight.
So body and breath aren't just things that happen to you, they're tools.
Exactly. Tools for calm, confidence, and better communication. Use them.
All right, we're learning to manage our bodies and breath. Now let's talk about a strategy that might sound scary, but is super effective. Gradual exposure.
Yes. Facing your fears, but step by step.
The idea is that avoiding fear keeps it strong, right?
Exactly. But gently pushing your comfort zone helps your brain learn the situation isn't actually dangerous. It adapts.
Yeah. And the key is starting small. Really low pressure stuff. Like what?
Like just introducing yourself in English to someone new.
Okay.
Leaving short comments online in English. Using a language exchange app for just a quick chat. Even reading English out loud daily. Low-stakes stuff.
Totally manageable first steps. Then you gradually move up.
Right. Once those feel okay, maybe try recording a short video of yourself speaking.
Ooh, okay.
Or participate a little in a small online meeting. Volunteer to answer a simple question. Practice a tiny 1-2 minute presentation for yourself or a friend.
Slowly turning up the dial. And the sources say you don't have to feel 100% ready for the next step.
No. That little bit of nervousness often means you're stretching yourself, which is where growth happens. It's about acting even when you're a bit scared.
And then eventually you work towards the bigger things.
Yeah. Sharing thoughts in work meetings. Giving short speeches to groups. Maybe even joining a podcast or webinar down the line. Teaching something in English.
And by the time you get there, because you've built up gradually, those bigger things feel less terrifying.
Exactly. Fear shrinks when you face it, step by step.
The sources also suggest tracking your progress, right? Celebrating the small wins.
Definitely. Keep a list of challenges you've tackled. Acknowledge your successes, however small they seem. Maybe keep a speaking journal.
Reflect on it.
And connect with other learners.
Yeah.
Find a supportive community.
And the main message is, it's not a race.
No. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Just keep taking small steps forward.
Take one small step today, build from there. It's an empowering approach.
It really is. It puts you back in control.
Okay, gradual exposure is about real-world steps. Now, let's look at something you do inside your head. Visualization. Mental rehearsal. Sources say it's surprisingly powerful.
It really is. Sounds a bit out there, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's simple and accessible and really helpful for managing anxiety.
How does it work, like in the brain? The sources mention neuroscience.
Yeah, it's cool. Basically, when you vividly imagine doing something, your brain activates many of the same pathways, as if you were actually doing it.
Like a mental simulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by mentally rehearsing a successful speaking experience, you're creating a blueprint for success in your brain, building familiarity with feeling confident.
Wow. So you can mentally practice being less anxious. How do you do it effectively?
Find a quiet spot, relax, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, then imagine the whole thing, start to finish, going really well.
Like a positive movie in your head.
Yes. Picture the place, the audience, what you're wearing. Hear your voice strong, calm, clear. See the audience listening, nodding, reacting positively.
Visualize good gestures, eye contact.
You even imagine handling a little stumble gracefully. See yourself finishing strong, maybe hear applause, feel that satisfaction.
And even short sessions help, like daily.
Absolutely. Consistency matters. Just a few minutes a day can start rewiring negative thoughts, building belief in your ability. You're practicing the feeling of success.
And the focus is positive, right? Don't get stuck on imagining mistakes.
Right. If your mind wanders to worries, gently bring it back to the successful picture. Use present tense, like I'm speaking confidently. Add emotion, feel the pride, the calm. Be specific with detail.
Makes it more real. And they mention combining it with affirmations, positive self-talk.
Yeah, powerful combo. Saying things like, I am a confident speaker, I express myself clearly, I connect with my audience, reinforces the positive visualization.
Say them before or after visualizing.
Good idea. It strengthens that self-belief.
So visualization is like training your brain for success, making confidence feel more familiar.
Exactly. Less like a scary unknown, more like something you've already experienced, mentally at least.
Okay, we've got mental tools like visualization. Now let's talk about the inevitable, making mistakes. Everyone does it. How do we handle them gracefully?
First things first, reframe them. Mistakes aren't failures, they're learning opportunities. Remember, even pros mess up sometimes.
It's a process, not a performance.
Exactly. So when you forget a word or mispronounce something, what do the sources suggest? Quick recovery tips.
Tip 1, pause and breathe. Simple, right. Gives you a second, shows control, not panic.
Good one. Second, paraphrase. If you can't find the exact word, say it another way. Describe it. Communication is the goal.
And if you need a bit more time, filler words.
Use them confidently. A calm, or just saying, give me a second to think is fine. Buys you thinking time.
Humor can help too.
Yeah, if it feels right, a little laugh at yourself can ease tension, connect with the audience, shows you're human.
And it's okay to just correct yourself quickly, like, oops, I meant...
Totally. Shows self-awareness. Just do it briefly and move on.
Which is the final tip. Move on quickly. Don't dwell on it. The more you focus on an error, the bigger it seems.
And the more you practice speaking, the better you'll get at handling these moments smoothly. It becomes less of a big deal.
It all comes back to communication over perfection.
Right.
Embrace mistakes as part of learning.
Exactly. Handling them well shows composure, resilience. That's a strength.
Definitely. Okay, we've covered loads of strategies and mindset shifts. Let's get some inspiration from people who've done this. Real-world tips.
Yeah, it's always good to hear from those who've walked the path. Our sources mention Amy Cuddy.
Power posing.
Right. And her idea of fake it till you become it. Confidence builds through consistent effort, positive experiences stacking up.
And Chris Anderson from TED. His big thing is preparation.
Know your stuff so well you can speak from the heart. He stresses how much TED speakers rehearse. Prep reduces fear.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talks about passion overriding anxiety.
Yes. If you care deeply about your topic, that passion connects you to the audience, pushes past the nerves. Great advice for English learners. Talk about things you care about.
And the stories from other English learners, like Gabriella starting small, Carlos focusing on communication, not perfection.
So relatable. Shows us possible. Small wins add up. Imperfection is okay.
And Sheryl Sandberg saying even successful people get nervous.
But practice and prep help manage it. It gets easier, but maybe never disappears entirely for some.
So the common thread from all these examples is, it's a journey.
Requires consistency, practice, accepting imperfection. Confidence is built step by step.
You build that confidence reservoir with every attempt.
Exactly. Every time you speak, you're strengthening that muscle.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, just want to leave you with some final encouragement. Your journey to being a more confident English speaker, it starts now with the next small step you take.
Our sources really drive home the power of that one small action today. Those little steps add up to big changes over time.
So what's a small action you could take? Maybe record a quick 1-minute video of yourself speaking English?
Or speak up at a local language meetup. Or online.
Even just leave a voice note for a friend in English. Or make a quick phone call. Consistent small actions, that's the key.
And we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Maybe share your biggest public speaking fear in English. Or a recent small win.
Yeah. Sharing helps you reflect, and it supports others too.
Absolutely. And if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with others who might benefit. Let's build this community.
And let us know if there are other topics you want us to dive into.
Always remember, you are not alone in this. There's a huge community out there. Confidence really does come with practice.
So please, take that one small step. Keep practicing. Believe you can improve. We're rooting for you. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.
We look forward to connecting with you next time.